Welcome back, adventurers, to Let's Play Chaos Head. In the last episode, Takumi Nishijo was bound by his word to basically assist Yua in checking out when the new Serotan figurine would be released at Animate. And the situation wasn't made any more helpful by Daisuke's sarcastic demeanor there. But at any rate, despite himself, Takumi actually found himself, to his shock and horror, enjoying the experience. But of course, Yua made him promise to actually take her to animate it again once the post-awakening figurine actually arrives in stores. And now that pretty much leaves Takumi to brood as Nightheart on the chat halls of Ensu. Yeah, things are getting a bit strange in the real world. The new gen crimes notwithstanding. Hmm. Wonder how Grimm's pondering this. In his usual fashion, I think. That night, as we chatted, I tried Grimm's advice over what to do about Yua. In all due respect, Grimm's advice is probably no better than Daisuke's, assuming they are in fact the same person or not. I didn't think anything would come of it if I went around suspecting everyone and everything all on my own, which is pretty much what you've been doing up until this point. But there was his answer. To be fair, I had had the exact same reaction the first time I spoke with Yua. Point taken, Grim. Point taken. Grim reacted the same way as Mizumi-kun. What if, to all contrary to all expectations, they were the same person? Even Takumi's now thinking along those lines. Huh. And it seems that Serotan is now has the job of announcing whenever Takumi has emails, apparently. Oh? I could hear Serotan's voice. I changed my settings so that she'd say the same line whenever I got a new email. When I casually checked my email client, the field for the sender's name said Yua Kusunoki.
うわ、早速来た。
Indeed, she did mention that she was going to email Takumi sooner or later. An email from a 3D girl. I'd never received one before. I took a gulp and opened it. The contents were completely infused with her neatness and good breeding. However, she also used emoticons to create a sense of friendliness. But with parts like, because you were there with me and I'd like to greet you in the morning. You could also interpret it as being part of some scheme of hers. There's Takumi with that paranoia again. It's a fairly straightforward email, if I do say so myself. Grim was being so obnoxious about that I decided to slow my words. I decided to just throw the whole thing up there. Although I made sure to remove our personal information first, of course. Good thinking. Yeah, Grim's not impressed. I already knew that much. But she was such a good girl that it was actually kind of disagreeable. That that might not be so bad. No, no, no. That was exactly what she wanted me to think. There's Grim using the exact same verbiage as Daisuke. They could very well be the same person. Once again, Nightheart is staying firm.
そうだけど。
But is it worth it? If only that were possible. If I could do that, it wouldn't be such a struggle. And there was something I'd learned from talking to Yua yesterday and the day before yesterday. It was enjoyable, and it made me happy. But more so than that, it wore me out, and it was a huge bother. Rather than continuing to be forced to go through all that, I might as well stick to the 2D world, where I could live however I wanted. Which is why I didn't send a reply to Yua's email. She's probably going to remember that. And now we're elsewhere, it seems. It was going up in flames. Looks like a bunch of pamphlets and other bits of materials are burning in an open fire. Is that a good idea? Red tongues of flames danced inside the incinerator. They were burning a sailor uniform and a number of textbooks. That's going a bit overboard. The house was located at the foot of the mountains. From its garden one could look out across the inland sea. The sound of the boat's steam whistles came faintly from afar, and a refreshing, salty breeze softly shook the trees just beyond the house's eaves. In the midst of that tranquil airflow, only a small-statured young girl, only Kozue Orihara, standing motionless in front of the incinerator, bore about her a heavier atmosphere. So we have another unknown individual that is going to be thrown into the mix. fixed incessantly on the sailor uniform and textbooks transforming to flame inside the incinerator, her eyes wore a vermilion glow. They were the sailor uniform she had worn yesterday and the textbooks she had used up until just yesterday. I read that twice. She made no effort to move from the spot, as though she were reluctant to part with them, despite the fact that she herself had set them on fire. She abruptly knitted her eyebrows in anguish and covered her ears hard. So it is an incinerator and not a trash can. Her mouth opened with difficulty, but nothing more happened. Neither groaning nor complaining, she simply breathed raggedly. She shook her head over and over, as if to push something away. Still covering her ears, she gradually crumbled in place. When her bottom hit the ground, she moved her chin up just a little, as though exhausted, and gazed expressionlessly at the sky. She remained in that position for several minutes without so much as twitching. But with equal suddenness, she turned about confidently, as though she had heard someone's voice. Before her lay the house's veranda. Though it was the middle of the day, it was dim within the wood-constructed, over 50-year-old house, and she couldn't see much beyond the veranda. Kozue shakily rose to her feet and walked up to the veranda. Her mother appeared right then, as though she'd calculated the timing.
あら、梢ちゃん。探してたのよ。もう荷物の整理はできたの？
Kozue nodded and sat down lightly at the edge of the veranda.
あさってにはもう、この家ともお別れなのね。
Standing next to her, her mother cast a look at the serene inland sea.
東京なんて行くの、梢ちゃんは初めてよね。
Yes, aware this is, it is not anywhere in Tokyo, to be sure. Not Shibuya and not Akihabara.
いいお友達ができるといいわね。
And still Kozue says nothing. Kozue neither nodded nor shook her head in response to her mother's considerate words. Holding her silence, she continued gazing desolately at the incinerator in the corner of the garden, which even now went on harboring its flames. Well, that was a rather odd segue. The following week's school-going day. As melancholy as usual, I stared down at my feet on the way to school. It was about time for the season to start changing to autumn in earnest, and so summer comes to an end. The trees in Shoto Park were gradually becoming more colorful, and the short sleeves were starting to get a little chilly. Since I typically stayed indoors all the time, the changing of the seasons only perplexed me. I still felt like it was supposed to be summer. Well, summer has been and gone. I played Ensu all weekend. Grim kept asking me about Yua, but I ignored him from start to finish. Yua hadn't mailed me once since then. She might have finally given up, since I didn't send a reply. That'd be a huge relief. I wonder about that. I got all mixed up when I talked to Yua. I seemed to be on the verge of discovering some hope for myself. But there was no point in a creepy otaku like me embracing hope. I lived all this time without ever once getting rewarded for anything, and so I'd lost interest in the third dimension. Please don't make me expect anything. Please don't expect anything of me. It's very morbid. Someone tapped me on the shoulder from behind. Thinking it was Nanami or Mizumi-kun, I turned around and was surprised.
西
Lo and
条く
behold,
ん
it's Yua. Yua smiled at me, her cheeks slightly flushed. For some reason, she was out of breath, probably because of the fact that she ran all the way
後
here.
ろ姿が見えたからもしかしたら西条くんかなって思って走って追いかけちゃいました。
Could this possibly mean she hadn't given up yet? She still had expectations for me. She might ask about the lack of a reply.
おはようございます西条くん。やっと言えました。土日を含めて4日もかかってしまいましたけど。あ、先週メールを送ったんですけど、読んでもらってます。
Without meaning to, I nodded reflexively.
よかった。返事がなかったからてっきり届いていないかと思って何度か送り直そうとしたんですけど、我慢しておいて正解でした。
Well, at least she's glad that he read it. What on earth did you expect from me? Should I fall in love with you? Should I become your boyfriend? And should we then live out our lovey-dovey lives as a couple? No way. I couldn't act so wholesome. I wanted to, but it would never happen. Besides, I didn't understand how you had come to think so well of me. I couldn't have faith in her. That's what made it impossible.
西条くん、どうしたんですか？
Yua seems to have noticed Takami's expression.
ずっと立ち止まってるので。
I hastily walked off, leaving Yua behind, but she caught up by trotting.
昨日西条くんのクラスに行ったんですけど、いませんでしたよね。もしかして風邪でもひいて休んでるんじゃないかと思って心配だったんです。
Yeah, funny you should say that.
でも元気そうでよかった。
たまにしか。
はい。
I think it's time to shed some light on the matter.
僕たまにしかみんなから引きこもりって思われてる。
Surely I disillusioned her. Surely knowing what I was really like, she'd have lost all friendly thoughts towards me. I didn't mind, because I hadn't expected anything from the start. Go on. Think of me as being creepy and gross, and from now on, please stay away from me.
そうですか。でも今日は会えてよかったです。
Very different reaction than what Takami was expecting. I was floored. Without thinking, I scrutinized Yua's smile intently. Our eyes met, and I was forced to hastily turn my face away. Why is it that I don't weird you out?
っていうか、たまにでも学校に来てるなら西条くんは引きこもりじゃないと思います。
Indeed, after all, as Takami himself had said, he's not as close to being a hikikomori as most people, because after all, he does actually venture outside.
すいません。分かったようなこと言っちゃって。
でも苦痛だよ。
だとしたら偉いです。
え？
I couldn't so much have imagined that she would reply with such words. But what could possibly be admirable about a useless human being like me? Yua smiled tenderly. I honestly thought, It was a smile that could heal people.
だって西条くんは辛いのに頑張って学校に来ていますから。
Indeed, at least he makes the effort to try.
普通なら普通は来られないですよ。
でも僕はオタだしキモいし。
私西条くんの話を聞くの好きですよ。
He keeps puncturing his every words. What on earth was it? This affirmation of my whole being. Why did it feel so comforting? I had the feeling that Yua would be able to embrace everything about me. I had the feeling that Yua would tell me it was alright for me to be here. If I were with Yua, I might be able to go back to being a regular person.
大変予礼ですよ。
In other words, we're going to be late. Without my noticing it, our surroundings had become empty of students. Everyone was already inside the school building.
西条くん、それじゃあ私失礼します。あ、今日の放課後時間ありますか？
え？
もしよかったら一緒に帰りましょう。
She murmured shyly, blushing a bit.
放課後中庭で待ってます。もし気が向いたら来てください。あ、無理に来なくても全然平気ですから。失礼します。
Yua gave me a courteous bow and ran off towards the building where the seniors' classrooms were located. Watching her go, I pinched my cheek again. It really wasn't a dream or delusion. I stayed in a daze during all of my classes that day. Very much so. And it is actually a good place to end this episode of Let's Play ChäoS. And when we return, adventurers, we shall see what today's afternoon has in store for Takumi Nishijo. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.